In this video, we're going to plot points on another non-basic parabola. Again, this parabola is opening upward. The difference between this parabola and the previous one in the previous video is that the leading coefficient on this one, the leading coefficient is less than 1, but greater than 0. On the previous video, the leading coefficient was greater than 1. So one of the things I'd like you to notice is that this parabola is much wider than a basic parabola. Whereas in the previous video, the parabola was much narrower than a basic parabola. So when we multiply when the leading coefficient is a number that's greater than 1, the parabola becomes narrower than a basic parabola. When the leading coefficient is between 0 and 1, the parabola becomes much wider than a basic parabola. So that's an important difference between the parabolas that you want to keep in mind. Okay, so we're going to do the same thing that we've done in the previous videos. We're going to find our vertex first of all, which is 20, negative 193. We're going to plot that point, 20, negative 193. And what did I do? There we are. Okay, there we go. So there's our vertex. That's the vertex of our parabola. So again, we want to plot 5 points to the right of the vertex and 5 points to the left of the vertex. We're going to copy, so Control or Command C after selecting the vertex, and then we're going to do Control V and then Enter. We're going to do that 10 times. Control V, Enter. That's once, twice, 3. Oops, did I do that? Let's try that again. Okay, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, and 10. So we just plotted the vertex on top of itself 10 times. So that's what we got right now. So then we're going to go back and in our x coordinates, we're going to add 1, subtract 1, add 2, subtract 2, add 3, subtract 3, and so forth as we go down our list of vertices here. So let's add 1 first, and then subtract 1. Then we will add 2 and subtract 2. And what you should see is that there are a series of points that are on the same level as the vertex of the parabola. So then we're going to add 3 and subtract 3. Then we will add 4. Whoops. Try again, add 4. Subtract 4. Add 5. And subtract 5. So again, we've moved to the right and to the left 1 unit starting from the vertex of the parabola. And so we have those 10 points there now. So now we want to move those points up to the parabola. And the first thing that we're going to do is we're going to square each of the numbers that we added to the x-coordinate and then add that result to the y-coordinate. So 1 squared is 1, so we add that now to the y-coordinate. Okay, and we're not exactly seeing things yet. Okay, and then we're going to do that to the next one also. Okay, on the next one, we added 2, and we're going to square 2, and that gives us 4, so we're going to add 4 and add 4. Now we're beginning to see it, that this is not putting the points on the parabola. So now we're going to square 3, which is 9, so we add 9, add 9, whoops, add 9. And then 4 squared is 16, so we will add 16. And then we will add 16. Not 18, 16. And then 5 squared is 25, so we will add 25 and add 25. Okay, so now those points that we have would be perfect for a basic parabola that had been translated to this vertex. But we're not dealing with a basic parabola. We are dealing with a non-basic parabola because the leading coefficient of this parabola is not 1 or -1. Rather, it is -0.5. So we need to modify this. Okay, and the way we're going to do that is by multiplying each of these numbers that we added to the y-coordinate. We're going to multiply them by the leading coefficient. Now, in this case, the leading coefficient is 0.5, so I'm going to copy that 0.5. So Control or Command C to copy that leading coefficient. Then I'm going to go in here next to the number that I added to the y-coordinate. I'm going to do Shift 8, which gets me multiplication. Then I'm going to do Control V, which copies the leading coefficient. Okay, and the leading coefficient was 0.5. So I'm going to do that again, Shift 8, and then Control V. And I'm going to do that to all the numbers that I added to the y-coordinate. So Shift 8, Control V. 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 And I'm doing Control V because I copied the leading coefficient. Shift 8, Control V. Then Shift 8 and Control V. And then Shift 8 and then Control V. And that put all of those points on the y-coordinate. Now, so that moved all of those points onto the parabola that we are plotting here. So now I'd kind of like to modify this drawing just a bit. We can do that in Desmos. Now, let's see. Now the vertex is at the point 20, -3. So the vertex ranges. Ooh, look at that! I could do that. Okay, the vertex ranges, or rather, these points range from 25 on the right to 15 on the left. So we kind of did that. Let me modify the. So okay, good. So let's modify the y coordinate as well. And so we're going to go. Before I do that, let's. I want to make sure where our. Okay, so yeah, we are in the 4th quadrant. Okay, so I want to make sure where we are. We are in the 4th quadrant. So that means our y values do have to be negative. So now the y value of our vertex is -193. So I want to go just below that. So I'm going to go to -200. And then I want to go up to -170, let's say. So 170. Okay, so that's a much prettier picture of our parabola. And then let's go and label the points. So we're going to label each of these points by clicking the label box, something that I neglected to do in the last video. Okay, there we go. We have one more point to label. Okay, so those are all of the points that we set out to plot on our non-basic parabola. And again, notice that the non-basic parabola had a leading coefficient of 0.5. We multiplied 0.5, that leading coefficient, by each of the numbers that we added to the y-coordinate. And then that moved all of these points onto our non-basic parabola. So we're going to do one more video in which we do this for a downward opening parabola. So hopefully you are finding this helpful to you.